Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. In 2016, I was asked by an incredible friend and mentor, venture capitalist and angel investor Bill Ty, to become the founding executive director of what I helped shape into the world's largest startup competition of its time, known as the Extreme Tech Challenge, with Virgin founder Sir Richard Branson as our anchor judge. Over the 3 years I supported this event, I helped vet more than 5,000 startups that entered the competition. And that's where I discovered that healthcare innovation was moving at the speed of light. But what was upsetting, however, is that many of these companies with brilliant, potentially life and limb saving devices and services have never gotten to market since then because they failed on the business side without sufficient financial and business support. It really happens a lot to companies with breakthrough ideas started by people who just don't have any fundraising experience. They struggle to get that financial backing they need because they don't have the business acumen to impress investors and partners. Now, fast forward, I have started my own nonprofit organization with more than 12,000 patients I support across the globe with a disease more prevalent and deadlier than most cancers combined, which is poor circulation in the legs, known as peripheral artery disease or PAD. Left untreated, it leads to heart attack, stroke, and amputation. And I have had trouble since starting this organization, despite having more than 500,000 interactions with patients, saving more than 1,000 limbs from amputation, actually getting the financial support we need to help us to scale. And so that's why I'm really excited about this show when a really good friend of mine, Jeff Kafka, who's an incredible entrepreneur, out of Silicon Valley approached me and said, "Hey, we're creating this incredible platform that could democratize access to critical resources for startups like yours and others, especially in the healthcare space, but also across the board in every genre. Help them to get the resources they need to succeed." I was like, "Oh my gosh, we need to talk." So he introduced me to his co-founder. We have Michael Likosky. I think that's how I pronounce it, Likosky. And he is an incredible leader in Silicon Valley with a lot of experience in the startup realm and creating partnerships and getting funding for a lot of these companies. And so they started this platform. It's called Storyboard Capital. They're launching it today on our show, which we're really excited about. Dr. John is here. He's also excited about hearing more about Storyboard Capital because he himself, right, Dr. John, you are looking to start your own medical device company as well.
Well, number one, this is going to be a fantastic show because I love the idea of picking the brains of two entrepreneurs and folks that have navigated these waters. So for me as an interventional cardiologist, we're always tinkering with new devices and trying to either create a better mousetrap or, maybe a different way to catch the mouse. And gone are the days where a doc could have an idea and then present it to industry, oftentimes a large medical device company, and then have them kind of run with it with designing it and funding capital and stuff. And so I've been trying to, I've been working on a catheter for probably 2 years now. And, you have to develop it. You've got to get prototypes. You've got to have money, and then you've got to figure out whether it works and this, that, and the other. And it's just such a long process. So I'm really excited to speak with Michael and Jeff and just kind of pick their brains and hear their story, and obviously learn about Storyboard Capital and where that's going. And super jazzed that they're launching it on the show. So it's gonna be a good time.
So I want to jump right into the conversation. So why don't we kick things off with a moment of inspiration?
Dr. John Phillips' spectacular vascular moment of inspiration.
Yeah, so real simple. We're talking about guys that we're talking two gentlemen who know about investing, and the one of a very famous investor, Warren Buffett. I was looking for a quote from him, and this is very simple, and we've all heard a derivation of this one way or another. But he's quoted as saying the most important investment you can make is in yourself, and I think that just emphasizes the importance of self-improvement, knowing what your skill set is, and kind of growing with that from a personal standpoint, educating yourself. And it's people that like are in certain spaces. So for me as an interventional cardiologist and a vascular interventionalist, there are tools that I know and I want to make them better. And that's where you invest. You invest in yourself. So very simple quote, but I think it's poignant. Gentlemen, let's introduce the two of you to the show. Welcome. And Michael or Jeff, any thoughts on that quote? Does it resonate at all?
Great to be on the show. I think that self-betterment is key to raising capital effectively too, and in part because part of being of that is to engage in a conversation where we're dialoguing with investors on that issue, and part of how to be enriched by them and vice versa. And oftentimes people like to sell in this situation to investors, but investors want to buy and want to be part of that self-betterment process as well.
And what about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, thanks for having us on the show. We're really excited to be here. And also, Kym and I connected through Built High and our kite surfing community. And I met Michael about a year ago, and we worked manually on public-private partnerships. He's been involved with a lot of later stage companies. I've been involved with a lot of startups. I helped one med tech startup bring in their largest investor. And then the other day we talked to a med tech startup that raised like $90 million, and he still doesn't really know how to navigate the space with the money he has. So we're helping him do that. So really excited to be on the show. And let me know what questions I can answer on my side too.
Well, part of investing in yourself, especially if you're in Silicon Valley, is to learn how to kiteboard. For so long, you and I have both been immersed in this kiteboarding community, because back in 2000, I would say 12, kiteboarding became the new golf in Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah, and it became the new golf because some tech billionaires were passionate about it, and then a lot of the startups and the VCs wanted to network with the billionaires, and then I think that event created more value than the billionaires did of just the Silicon Valley Bank and the startups networking together, and Zoom and Canva and Ring came out of those groups. For me, it's been quite a unique relationship with Silicon Valley. And I talked to some folks yesterday, and now, innovation can happen outside of Silicon Valley, but it seems like at some path in your journey of a business, you still need that connection to Silicon Valley, but whether it's on the early side or the late side. So we're excited to be here with Storyboard Capital, living in Silicon Valley and helping, nationally. So,
I mean, it's really interesting, and you're really humble. I mean, he helped teach Larry and Sergey, the founders of Google, how to kiteboard, got them really, kicking butt on the water. Also, it's interesting, you had Steve Wozniak, founder of Apple, who also spent a lot of time on the beach. I remember we were in Hawaii with this great group from Silicon Valley. You had the founder of Dropbox there. You had the founder, that was Drew Houston. You had the founder of Ring Doorbell, Jamie Siminoff, who was there. You had the former CFO of Amazon, even Elon Musk was out there on the beach, and they were all networking. And so what I'm really excited about to talk about in the next section right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW is how they're bringing that networking and those business connections from the beach to online and digitizing them. We'll find out how next. Stay with us right here. Don't go away.
How many procedures are you willing to go through? Is it worth going through that many, or would you rather just step
That's funny. Was it worth it? Oh yeah, I have my leg, man.
Amputation should absolutely, positively, 100% never be a first-line treatment.
What an incredible operation, what an incredible lab you have here. Without a doubt, we're underdiagnosing peripheral arterial disease. It has not gotten the attention that it should, because it is a killing disease, it is a disabling disease, and most importantly, it's a disease that we now have great treatments for. Okay, let's go to the next one.
They were going to amputate it, and I needed to consult with my family. Did I want it off here or here? You're just shocked. It's scary. I don't even know how to explain it. You're 40 2 years old.
We're waiting till people are at the end of the spectrum and almost beyond hope. There is good care available here. Closed minds are what we have to get rid of.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are just kind of kicking off what's going to be an interesting show and fascinating conversation with two entrepreneurs. And so, Jeff and Michael, before we, I think, dive into Storyboard Capital and what that has in store for us or for you guys, can you give us a little bit about your background and how the two of you came together? Jeff, if you mind starting with us.
Sure. My background is actually telecommunications, but I was passionate about water sports, and so I helped start the Big Wave World Tour of surfing. Traveled around the world, surfing these big waves and running events and stuff. And I was also a pioneer of the sport of kite surfing in the state of California. And early on, Larry Page and Sergey Brin and CFO of Amazon wanted to get into kite surfing, so I started hanging out with these guys and traveling the world with these guys. And Silicon Valley Bank and Charles River Venture Group and a bunch of tech startups and VCs wanted to get into this network, and they were also passionate about kite surfing. So we did these events where we had startups pitching to investors on these water sport trips. And out of that, it was quite a unique ecosystem of people. And it only started with like 40 people. But some of those folks became the first investors of Zoom, Ring, Canva, Tesla, blockchain, med tech, a lot of medical related companies. And it just created this unique ecosystem. And what it really is, if you put people in this extreme environment, you really get to know them and bond and form relationships together. So I was helping run these events, and then I said, I don't want to be in the event business. I want to be boots on the ground with the startups. So I started like advisor roles for startups. And then I started helping founders find their way, their path, and doing fundraising, strategic partnerships, and defining markets. And then about a year ago, I met Michael Likosky here, and we also met through a water sport and environmental focused group that's working on plastic pollution and humanitarian efforts and stuff like that. But Michael's an expert in public-private partnerships, and we've been working on helping companies manually. And now with AI, we're leveraging AI as a tool to benefit startups and later stage companies find their path and their story.
And Michael, your background?
Yeah, definitely. So I worked in public-private partnerships for about 20 years. Advised, I'd say, all sides of the table in the area. I've advised government extensively, so I spent about 8 years advising governors. So I've advised Governor Brown, and I advise Governor Newsom now, some Northeastern governors, U.S. senators, the U.S. Treasury Department extensively under President Obama, and then some overseas governments in United Nations and such in this area. And then large corporates like Google, Facebook, and large financial institutions like the Goldman Sachs partners and a number of different folks. I help people raise money that combines different types of capital together, public, private, so federal, state, local government, nonprofit, academic, philanthropy, private corporate, private fund managers, so a range of different players that in a lot of ways are necessary to glue together to do projects. I think people who are successful in business end up happening upon it in one form or another in a very ad hoc way, though. And so the idea was that can be optimized and much more effective. And then help large companies with crises that emerge on large complex projects that are socially distant from them, the crises. But I think as a general matter, part of the germination of this is that in working with Google or Facebook or the broadcasters, everybody should get the services that they get. And people without relationships in business, people without understanding expertise in finance, should be able to succeed. And in advising the large players, they need it too. And so how can people sit in and be Google? How can they get the benefits of a Google? And one of the exciting things that's happened that drives this too is that the environment is different. If there's only one way to Google can get these things, they have to give it to small and startups. the federal government. And so that opens up a huge market, that this is the deal, the big get and the only the small and startups get. So
So bring us back to the conversation between the two of you that became the catalyst. I would love to have been a fly on that wall during that conversation where the light bulbs went on. Can you bring us back to that moment?
Well, I was working a lot in technology and AI and edge computing and cybersecurity and working. I have a lot of DoD experience, and I had met Michael and wanted some help with a few projects, and we were talking about how AI is like, it's not gonna take over a human, but it could at least 10x your productivity. And for me, it opens up doors of like things I probably would have thought about if I took 2 or 3 days brainstorming on it, but now I can do it in 5 seconds. So it's just this hyper tool that can really help people focus and not get lost in, especially you get into defense sector, or if you have one company and it's just focused on defense, they don't know how to navigate the VC. The VC money doesn't know how to connect with the grants and things like that. So using AI specifically the way we're doing it, you can really like envision a story that your company can create to make a path to multiple forms of financial support for your growth of your company.
So which one of you said, whoa, okay, we're launching this platform?
I think it was done, together in the same way. I think the issue really at the core of it is, can you democratize the ability to secure capital and grow? And it's just not built in. And so I think as we worked on specific things, how can you enhance people's capabilities to succeed? And I think the business idea and business purpose is that you can do this by enhancing and using AI in order to do so. And I think we'd each been involved in this, and so I think the gel did come out of that common purpose.
So coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to get to John's question. I'm going to let him get a word in edgewise on this. I can see he's chomping at the bit over there. And he is going to launch Storyboard Capital with Mike and Jeff. That's next. Stay with us right here on KDOW and the Heart of Innovation. Don't go away.
Your type of condition is called critical limb ischemia. It's the most advanced form of PAD, or peripheral arterial disease.
Every 4 minutes, there is an amputation in this country due to PAD and diabetes. We also know that 85% of these amputations are preventable with early intervention.
It's a flip of the coin. Patient prognosis is tied to whether or not they are referred to a true expert in the management of peripheral arterial disease.
Do you know if your physician is an experienced CLI operator?
When you're in the hospital dealing with doctors and stuff, you figure they know what they're talking about.
The skill level varies doctor from doctor and hospital to hospital.
Patients with limb threat are in constant fear. The depression that someone experiences after they lose a limb is equivalent to those of losing their spouse of 40 years.
I was stuck in a wheelchair close to 2 years, and my husband had to quit work.
I didn't know what to do at this point because we had nothing but infections and hospital stays and infections and hospital stays.
And they took one toe, another toe, and then it was another toe, and then half his foot before he was even diagnosed with PAD.
And all I heard was, "What are we doing here? Just cut it off." And I pulled the curtain back like, "Are you kidding me?
Do you really want to go through all that?"
That's crazy. That's insane.
The protocol is to send them to amputation. Always, always, always get multiple opinions.
We do have options. We need to listen more to our patients.
If you're going to chop off their leg anyway, why not just let someone else try?
This is the progression. First comes the wounds, and then comes an amputation. And I wasn't going to accept that.
So that's what it's like to try to save a leg.
Welcome back back, everybody. So let's just dive right into this, because during the break we were discussing the model and how the democratization of this process you guys are trying to develop. So if I could bring in let's pretend I have an idea for a medical device, okay, and I've worked it out in my head. I think it is going to make some sense, and I made a prototype. I've been talking to an engineer. We've got things rolling, and we're thinking about formulating a startup. Can you guys walk me through as a physician, this process, and how Storyboard Capital could potentially help me, or maybe just say, your idea is not the right way, what we need to do, and move on.
Yeah, so maybe through an example, and there's obviously a number of examples within that space that we've had experience with, and then go on in the broader market. I think I would enter it though, because I think it's important to think about it in the context of what's going on in the federal government and state and local government too, right? So under Warp Speed, I've worked on a project with a company during Warp Speed during the COVID crisis, right? First, 88% of companies that got money were startups and early stage companies. It's not really what one would understand from the federal government during that Warp Speed project, Pfizer, et cetera. So it was there and available and used, right? So the first thing was folks are used to going into HHS for money, right? HHS has its long duration, right, to get money. It has a competitive process. There's not as much money as there are demands. For instance, can be a bit bureaucratic. The success was to go through the USDA, go through Commerce Department. So this group, medical device, I worked with them. They went through the Commerce Department. Same money, and it was it was a loan and a loan rather than a grant. But they had raised some money so they could secure their loan off of something. So it had all those benefits of unrestricted money. The second part of the process, jumping beyond getting the different types of money from HHS ultimately and fast track through it, was who's gonna purchase who's gonna buy not only the product, but who's gonna buy the company, or who's going to be the next stage of investment in the company, right? So that's an area that we gave a lot of thought to. The traditional way would be to go through a major pharmaceutical for them or a major medical company. Well, it turned out that the federal government didn't want people to screen through there. They didn't think they would. They thought that those companies would be absorbed by the big companies. And so they wouldn't get the innovation that they needed at that point for their perspective, right? So that's the second thing. And there it was to go into some of the bigger technology companies to acquire. And that's becoming the increasing opportunity in terms of how we're seeing things, is just to go into a different route, into a different sector, a little subsector into the technology companies for acquisition, and then to think about their price point, pain point. I'd just say one more thing, because we went through Commerce. Right now, you'd go through the USDA. Much that's happening in the USDA is increasing HHS jurisdiction. And so there's great support in figuring out that route into getting money. And sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants, and people want to go through a route that, even when they know other routes, may not be as fast or as successful, but the rates of success are much higher. And so that was the experience with with that medical device company. And I think it's become a more worn path.
So one of the things that I see in terms of what you're doing and the benefits of what you're doing is you're being able to say to these smaller companies that have these ideas, or people that want to, they have ideas and want to start a business. Hey, there are multiple areas in which you can go after funding. Because for me, with my nonprofit, I thought the only way was to go through the NIH for a grant. You're now opening my mind up to say, whoa, wait a minute. I can go to Health and Human Services, which is the HHS. I can go to possibly the Department of Agriculture. I could go to the Department of Commerce, and there might be other grants or sources of funding there. But how would I know about that? How would someone with just an idea or just a small organization not only know to do that, but then have the business prowess to be able to go in and say what needs to be said, or to have the connections that need to be had in order to expedite or push some of those requests for funding through. And that's where your organization can come in with your experience.
Exactly. And I would say there's no one who does it except for us. Right. And so even on a concierge treatment, there's no one else that does it. And so there's no real path. And one of the things, whether you're working with Apple or whether you're working with Pfizer, they find their way sometimes to it, or Tesla, but it's not planned, it's not deliberate. And there really is no way. And I'd say there's been a revolution in how the public-private sector funds things in the last 6 years. And what it is that's coordination. There's more places to go for money. Commerce department used to have no money, but then you find that you can go through the commerce department, right? It's a huge seismic transformation of government.
And it's really interesting to me because my eyes just really opened up recently with all of the, whether you agree with it politically or not, or whatever, I'm not even looking at it like that, but all of these organizations, for all of these different reasons, they're getting millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I'm sitting here thinking, now, how the heck are they getting that money? And how is it that I'm not? Are you kidding me? I'm literally saving life and limb right now, and I'm not getting that money. How is this possible? So it's amazing that your platform is something that an organization like ours could go to and say, hey, help us. What do we do? Where do we go? Who do we talk to?
Well, I guess my follow-up question would be, how much money are we talking here? Number one, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking millions as opposed to maybe a couple 100,000 that you need for something. But the second question, which we'll probably have to get to in the next segment, is the current political temperature, as I understand it, is not super favorable to just giving out money, governmental money. Does that concern you guys moving forward? I guess we should take that question first.
I think our main task as a business perspective is to have people succeed under whatever administration or whatever mix of public and private players are involved. And so I think that's the animus. That's I don't know, the realistic optimism in it. Yeah, there's plenty of money. There's trillions of dollars on the sidelines for critical money in the sector. Everybody needs to anchor it in something. It's all public-private. Everybody has to leverage each other to create value. And that's not how people think about government. They think about gifts. They think about things you don't have to pay back. And it's not. Even if it's that's 10% of your project. And so you go where you're valued in our view. And that's part of who has money for you. Right. And there's people that value people who tell certain stories, who address these needs. And there's more money than is available. There's, it sounds like like a canned thing to say. Right. But in truth, there's more money than there is merit that's able to do the money. And most of the government people, they never leave DC. So how are they going to know who any of these startups are?
And coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we'll find out more of how they're helping not only startups, but also larger companies as well. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
I think probably one of the biggest satisfactions I get is when somebody comes to see me and they're told that, look, I've been told I have no other options. There's nothing we can do. And then when we actually go through and do our workup and our evaluation and all the vascular testing that we typically do, that we see that, we may have an option here to do something to save your leg, or at least make whatever amputation you're going to have less extensive. That's probably the best way to say it. And I see quite a few of those patients in South Florida. I'm obviously kind of west of Fort Lauderdale, so that's where I'm located now. But that's, I think, the biggest, probably gives me the most satisfaction, is when we're able to take patients who are told that there's really no other options, and then we're able to make a difference. We're not successful in every case, but at least we took somebody that had a 0% chance based on what they've been told and giving them some level of hope. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And you got to realize that in this arena, when people say you have no other options, that really depends on the experience of the operator, right? If I'm less experienced in something, then I'm not going to be able to offer, or I may not even know what those things are that could be offered. And if I'm more experienced and have seen a lot more of these things, then I'm able to look at something and say, you know what, there are some options here. So it really depends on who you're talking to. And so I think we have to be careful with this so-called no options patient. And it's what I always tell the trainees and the residents and fellows and the medical students when they're learning, that you might think there's no options, but have we looked at every possibility, and are you aware of all the data that's out there and everything that's kind of new and innovative? So
welcome back, everybody. Thank you for continuing to hang with us here. So let's just get back into it. Jeff, we've been talking about the fund that you guys are starting, and you mentioned AI several times. How does AI help somebody who's about to embark on this journey, and how do you guys use AI to get them the capital they need, or the networking, or help them at the end of the day get their business to be successful and ultimately sold or sell product?
I mean, I've been using AI a lot to research other companies, to research investors, and it's like 10x my productivity at least. And what we're doing with Storyboard Capital is we're creating a lot of products that maybe a startup wouldn't think about, of like a risk matrix or due diligence document, or a joint venture related document. But what the AI really does is it allows you to think forward with your company of all the different scenarios. If I just focus on the defense, where am I going to end up there? Even like I used AI to prep for this meeting, and imagine if, like a lot of we had some meetings yesterday actually, and if I didn't use AI to prep for those meetings, it's kind of like you have to have a meeting to actually have a meeting to get to the point to see if you want to work with that person or not. And then, maybe some other value adds or takeaways from the meeting, and reports from a meeting and stuff. But basically what we built is a bunch of AI agents that represent different entities, from government to private, to loans and things like that, and how to combine them. So it's a educational and support tool. AI is not going to replace the decision of a human, but if the AI can help me as a startup understand all the capital that's available to me, and how to combine it, and how to form partnerships, like how to form, some DoD friends, they get these grants, and then and part of the grant they get money, and that's great, but then probably even more value than that money is the ecosystem that they end up in, with other innovators. So we think we can use our platform to connect projects together so they can grow together as well.
So it's not just about connecting people with money, it's about the due diligence. You were mentioning the diligence that might be a missing piece in these startups. Great, you make the connection to get the money, but they can't get the money because they haven't done their due diligence. So your AI tool, for example, would give them that due diligence checklist that they need, in order to make sure they don't miss a step and ultimately miss that funding.
Well, also that they're telling the right story to the right person, that they're actually telling a story to a person that can help them transact, make a partnership, give them money. Especially in startups, there's just so much wasted time, resources, time, and money, and everything of trying to tell the story to the wrong person.
So how does someone who's has a startup right now that might be listening get in touch with the you guys are launching it today, right? Storyboard Capital. How does someone connect with you guys?
Yeah, we have just a landing page and a sign up, so we can have people sign up for our newsletters and future podcasts. But we're also supporting companies manually as we grow our AI. So it's storyboardcapital.com.
this isn't just for startups though. This is also, you're hoping to attract larger companies as well. Michael, would you talk about the benefit of larger companies coming onto this platform?
Absolutely. So I've spent most of my career advising the larger companies. So this arises from their needs and helping them to achieve their own objectives in this context. And the two things fit together nicely, I think, the startup and then from large company. One of the key areas is what are the pain points of the large companies and where do they need startups, right? So take Apple, for instance. Apple's a health device business now. That's its future. And it has now half a dozen health devices that it uses right now. It uses all of its iPad, its phones. It uses its Oculus. It uses its watch. It uses questionnaires. It uses the first nurse or different group professional that onboards and writes the questionnaire for you, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So they're in this business, and what are they seeking to do? Well, they're seeking to understand their patients better, and ultimately from a wellness perspective, so that they can convince insurers, large hospital systems, medical researchers to figure out how to make money off of wellness in part, and that's a value that they are after. They have a very hard time along the way. They don't have the relationships with the large purchasers, the large hospitals, insurers. Have a trust-based relationship. Doctors can develop that a lot better in their device context than can Apple because of some wariness that different parties have with one another. That's just one example. And if you look at a Meta, they're doing the same thing with their Ray-Ban glasses. It's a medical device. It's a neural device from their perspective, right? So that's what these businesses are in. Panasonic, Alphabet, and how does the startup fit in? And that goes back then to the large companies. What do they need? And they're dependent upon startups, right? And so why are they dependent upon startups? Why is it core to their business model? And that's whether I'm advising an Apple or a Google or whether I'm advising a startup or a government, everyone's asking the same question of the startups. And so that's what in part the need. The other needs are consortiums, teams, joint ventures, these sorts of things that the big players need as much as the small players, or as much as the startups as well.
So it's not necessarily that an Apple or Meta needs money per se. It's they need the connections that you guys have formed or help get them from point A to point B.
And it's not the goal of the platform is not to say, oh, I got a friend that's a billionaire and they can help you. It's to give access to everyone so they don't get like raked through the coals from Shark Tank and VCs that are taking a mass amount of equity in their company.
Okay.
I always wonder about that because Shark Tank is when you hear that they're looking for $50,000 and the sharks want 30% of the company. That's a major chunk of money.
The company, there's very, very hard to survive after that. You're going to hit a wall. You have nothing to give after that. Even if you have good press and everything, it's very hard to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, those types of situations, they create these artificial spikes, right? And once that artificial spike, great, you sold a bunch of product right now, you got this big marketing plug, but then what happens down the road? And if you don't get a shark, you're basically screwed down the road because you're not going to maintain that sort of interest in whatever the product. But then if you do get that shark, then well, yes, you probably will end up with a certain amount of money, but wow, you could have ended up with more money if they would have gone through a platform like yours, would provide them this same sort of expertise, but in a streamlined format and without taking a big investment. But I'm curious what sort of investment these companies have to make in order to participate and get the benefits to your platform. So coming up next on The Heart of Innovation, we're going to find that out. Stay with us.
When your sugar runs high, it's more than a sign. Diabetes creeping in, it's a dangerous line. Pre-diabetes too, don't think it's too light. It can lead to PAT, so start the fight. Sugar's sweet, but the cost is real. High blood sugar makes your arteries feel clogged. Slow flow, it's a ticking time bomb. Catch it early, stay strong, and keep your legs on. Sugar's not so sweet when your leg is in pain. Not controlling sugar is where peripheral artery disease sets in. Got sugar? Get checked. Don't wait too late. Save your legs, save your life, take control of your fate. Leg pain, cold feet, neuropathy too. These are signs diabetes caught you. High sugar's the link where circulation and pain left untreated. Your leg might end inflamed. Got sugar in your blood, it's time to beware. Diabetes and PAT, they're a deadly pair. Don't ignore the signs, don't let it slide. Get tested, save your legs and your pride. Sugar's not so sweet when your leg is in pain. Not controlling sugar is where peripheral artery disease sets in. Got sugar? Get checked. Don't wait too late. Save your legs, save your life, take control of your fate. Oh, sugar's not so sweet when your leg is in pain. Not controlling sugar is where peripheral artery disease sets in. Got sugar? Get checked. Don't wait too late. Save your legs, save your life, take control of your fate.
Welcome back, everybody. We have 4 minutes left. It's been a fantastic conversation with Michael and Jeff. So, gentlemen, you've launched Storyboard. Now, what are so you I guess two questions. One of which is how will you grow this, and is it, I guess, more grassroots, organic? And then the second question is what's in it for you two? I mean, is this philanthropic, or is there funds that you guys need as well to survive?
No, I mean, we have a good, better, best model that we're thinking of, and there are some products in the market that charge quite a fee for something like this, like $80,000 per seat. But we think we can do this for really, really affordable, really affordable subscription, and then on the higher end pro service, we're really like focusing on cutting out a gigantic market that is taking quite a chunk out of industries and companies, just for in making it easy for law firms to help startups and things like that. So our customers are pretty broad, actually. It's government and law firms and startups and later stage companies. So we want to be a value add tool, and not really take away from anything except maybe these groups that are just taking quite a cut. I mean, some people raise money and then because they raise the money, that they end up losing about 15% to a group per transaction. So imagine you're doing multiple transactions and losing 15% of that money per transaction.
And Michael?
Yeah, I think to follow up on one aspect of what Jeff's saying, it's amazing that startups for me can survive. Because if you're paying that much for money, how can you produce the profit? And if your equity is being drained in a 2-year period by someone who's making an expensive investment, then it's a testament to being able to survive this context, right? I think from our perspective with regard to the capital, it's three areas of revenue. It's subscription, it's the transacting, doing the first right of refusal of deals that come onto the platform. We don't think that's an issue because it's a better option to do transact on our platform. And then the third that I think is important is concierge services. Many people need the concierge service at the end of the day. They'll need the thick advisory service. They'll need something along those lines. And so that's a third source of revenue, and they're all driven by the needs and what we see the needs in the market. I think that none of us want to be around if people don't want us because we're not providing a real value to people.
So we have less than a minute left. Just final thoughts here. If someone goes onto your platform today at storyboardcapital.com, what services can they get today, and then your ultimate vision?
I mean, they can get concierge services now, and if they sign up, they can be involved with our pilot. We already built some tech. We have a good dev team behind us that has built some pretty large AI projects. We're here in Silicon Valley. We got all the latest AI tech. So yeah, if you're interested in the pilot or signing up, or you need support for your company and a bespoke service, we're here to help.
I've got to ask real quick. I know what bot are you guys using for AI?
Well, we have a few that we're using per agent, and it's really important that data is current, and we're working on some cutting edge AI technology that friends are actually time stamping the data. So we're really concerned about the high quality of data for the AI agents.
Very good.
And he's not going to tell you their secret sauce, Dr. John. So don't even ask anything further.
I guess it's not Claude. Okay.
We're out of time, just in the nick of time. Thank you so much, Michael and Jeff. Congratulations on all of your success so far. Storyboardcapital.com is their website. Have a great